Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Svargrounded. Join me today as I slap around the undead, massacre the living, and call local wildlife just to fill in a book. In our last episode, I was forced to retreat from the Warlord arena. The challenge has proven too difficult for me, but I was prepared to tackle it once more. While casually leveling up and honing my skills, I was also waiting for the island of Chyllfroest to become open. I mentioned that place before, so you probably already know what I was after. In Chyllfroest I could obtain a mount, as well as some amazing equipment upgrades. To make the best of these opportunities, I took a 2 weeks vacation. Thanks to that, I was able to focus on the island entirely, and believe me when I say I did not regret that decision. The moment the gateway became open, I was ready to reap the benefits of this new area. Firstly, I made my way to the top of the mountain. Here, once every 20 hours, I was able to pick up a tinderbox, an item that I needed to combine with my previously prepared fireproof horns. I then had to delve into the mountain underground in order to find for a frozen Svargrounded. Quite frankly, I could never figure out what these creatures are supposed to be exactly. They do have the word Ursa in their name, which suggests a bear, but I have no idea where the Groudon part comes from. I tried googling the word, and the only thing that came up was the Pokemon Groudon. That definitely cannot be right. Besides, why are they undead? We can clearly see their bones, right? No matter what they are, obtaining one would grant me a small boost to my speed, so I definitely wanted to have one. The Wikipedia says that you have a 10% chance to get your melting horn to fully unthaw an Svargrounded. You actually need to use the horn on the creature 3 times. Every time you have to succeed and have a chance of breaking your horn, as well as the frozen creature. Unsurprisingly, my first attempt was a failure. Nonetheless, I had way more than enough horns to ensure I would get it eventually. Right after this short trip, it was time for me to try and kill the ghastly dragon. Naturally, as I always do, I first went to scout ahead with my high-level knight. This was my first time visiting this island, so I did not want to take any unnecessary risks. And let me tell you, this risk would have been insanely unnecessary. Ideally, I would like the ghastly dragon to be in a singular spot, very far away from any other creatures, so that I could farm it safely. Sadly, that wasn't exactly the case. First of all, I had to get there. On the way, there were 2 floors filled with frost dragons. I have fought these beasts before, and fighting more than 2 at once was pretty much a death sentence for my character. I hope I don't need to explain that this is definitely more than 3. Because of their paralyzing beams, even my level 400 knight character found himself quickly outpaced and surrounded.
All of you!
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
And this is the area itself. As you can see, the first ghastly dragon got drawn to me immediately, and I fought him alongside other frost dragons. There is also a second ghastly dragon, further to the south and way easier, thanks to how separated he is. There's also a flight of stairs. Sadly, that is not a safe spot, that is the lair of an undead dragon. These are even more deadly than the ghastlies, so I definitely could not count on the stairs to save my life should I find myself in a pickle while fighting a ghastly dragon. Upon seeing the brutal difficulty of the challenge ahead of me, quite frankly, I gave up. I could see not a single way for my character to be able to make it through to the ghastly dragon. And the ghastly dragon itself also has proven to be a more difficult opponent than I anticipated. I felt outmatched at every turn. Even with the double loot event that took place during the first weekend of Chyllfroest's opening, I did not think it possible to even out such overwhelming odds. However, as I logged in to slay some undead jesters that were spawning in the cities at the time, an idea had started taking shape within my mind. In the evening of the first day, me and the boys came up with a plan during one of my streams. Quite obviously, there was no one thing that could turn me from frost dragon fodder into a ghastly dragon killing machine. Luckily for me, there was a little bit more than just one thing I could do to improve my odds. I had been living in the frosty lands of Svargrounded for quite some time at that point, and I needed to make use of everything it had to offer to improve my chances of defeating the foul beast. As you probably already know, in Tibia there is this system that rewards you for killing many different kinds of enemies. When you kill a certain amount of one type of enemy, for example 250 trolls, you are rewarded with a bunch of points that you can later spend on charms. Of course, that is no short process. Charm point rewards for killing most enemies vary between 5 to 25 points based on their difficulty. The weaker enemies you only need to kill 250 of, while the harder ones, the ones worth 25 points, you need to kill about 1000 of. The least expensive charms cost 500 points to unlock. The one I was after? 700 points. Once you unlock a charm, you can assign it to an enemy that you have already killed enough to fill their bestiary entry for, to unlock certain advantages when fighting them. Of course, I could not use a charm to help me against a ghastly dragon, since I have yet to kill a single one, yet alone 1000. However, as you probably already know, there is a kind of dragons that I have been able to kill 1000 times already. The first step of my plan was to unlock the cleanse charm. When assigned to an enemy, every time it deals some damage to you, there is a 10% chance that it will remove a random negative effect that you have on you. It will also make you immune to that very effect for about 11 seconds. If I could get the cleanse charm to trigger while paralyzed, I would be able to escape the frost dragons without a problem. After all, their paralysis was their biggest threat. As you can see in the background, I started viciously filling in my bestiary entries for creatures that I had yet not completed, but had already made some progress on. Since the double loot event was still active, I decided to first target enemies that would grant me the best loot. First were the stone golems and gargoyles. I was going to need a lot of gold, and these creatures have pretty plentiful drops. Once I was finished with the stone golems, I moved into the Formorgar mine area. There I could finish my gargoyle bestiary entry, as well as start working on the second part of the plan. Now I knew there was a way for me to escape the frost dragons. However, they did not need to catch me to kill me. They had pretty good damage even from range. Their most damaging ability is a cone of smoke that can deal up to 500 life drain damage. That's right, the game categorized this kind of damage as life drain, and it just so happens that novices of the cult can drop a garlic necklace that protects you from life drain damage by about 20%. With a fifth of their damage gone, the frost dragons were going to be much more manageable. Novice cults can also drop rope belts. You'd need those to apply mana drain to your weapon. Being able to restore mana with every hit would come in handy later. Once I secured their charm points, as well as a bunch of garlic necklaces, I sailed to Helheim, where I started killing mummies, demon skeletons, crypt shamblers, ghouls, and boner beasts. Mummies have a drop of embalming fluid. With 20 bottles of that fluid, you can imbue your armor to protect you from death. While it is a measly 4%, I could apply it both to my armor and my shield, which made me more resistant to ghastly dragons' attacks, which are mostly based on death damage. Once I was finished with Helheim's upper levels, I delved deeper to fight more boner beasts and beholders. It was now day 2 and I have again failed to obtain the Svargrounded. Armed with heavy magic missiles, I was able to finish the bestiary entry for frost golems, which are naturally resistant to holy damage. On day 3 I was also unable to get the mount. However, the boosted creature of that day were the betrayed wraiths. While I knew that I wouldn't be able to complete their bestiary during that event, or after, I was interested in some of the items that they could drop. Firstly, mostly for fashion reasons, the skull helmet. It has the same armor rating of a royal helmet, except it weighs a little bit less. More importantly, the second item, a death ring that provides additional armor and some resistance to death damage. though it reduces your shielding skill by 10 points. While it only lasts 7 minutes and 30 seconds, I could definitely use the extra help when learning the fight in the initial stages. I was able to get the skull helmet, twice in fact, and also a couple of death rings. I have also learned that in Helheim you can find a lost soul, which also drops the death rings, but at a better rate. On the 4th day I finally got lucky and was able to unlock the mount. Our Svargrounded was mine, though I still have no idea what exactly he is. That day I decided to take it easy and finished my bestiaries for silver rabbits, deer, as well as worked on some of the skeletons. I also finished smugglers and made some good progress on bandits. Since there weren't that many regular skeleton spawns on Helheim, I wasn't able to focus on them completely. Instead, I decided that every time I took a boat, I would visit Helheim while working on other bestiary entries. And so, I was able to do the ice witches and started working on Kuaras. I was close to finishing up the Predator Scouts, but I also decided to do the Hydromancers, which would take me a couple of days. I initially planned to complete the Pinchers too, but yes, I had to give up on that. Instead, I decided to venture into the part of Chyllfroest that I did not expect to find myself in. In an area known as the Lost World, you can find some wailing widows, lancer beetles, as well as brimstone bugs and other creatures. I decided to complete the bestiaries for the first two. I was now incredibly close to the finish line. I was also almost out of creatures that I could do bestiary entries for easily. And so I finished up the bandits and took my Svargrounded on a tour to see his old friends. In the tunnels where he came from there's a bunch of wyverns, and that was probably the best place to finish that one as well. And with that, believe it or not, I was finally done. I had the cleanse charm and I was ready to try and fight the ghastly dragon. I have been saving prey wildcards all this time, just so I can safely reroll until I had a defensive bonus against ghastly dragons and frost dragons. I have also imbued my items with all the bonuses that I could. My cranial basher would now drain mana from enemies. My tier 1 knight armor was equipped with additional death and frost resistance, and I also slapped a death resistance on my tower shield.
Does it feel good?
I grabbed my garlic necklaces, rings of healing, energy rings, death rings, energy walls, and energy bombs. For my food I decided to take shrimp, which I had plenty of after having killed insane amounts of Kuaras. And of course the rest of my capacity was spent on carrying as many potions as I could, spirit and mana ones. I made my way through the first frost dragon floor without any problems. On the second, more dangerous floor, I made my way south and then took a detour to the west. There was a small short tunnel that leads to demons, hellhounds and behemoths. Thankfully, they are separated by a staircase, so I could use the narrow passage to separate the frost dragons and set up my cleanse charm. The moment I saw it triggered, I bolted south and made my way to the ghastly dragon, where I cut off the remaining frost dragons with an energy wall. I was finally able to face my true enemy, the ghastly dragon. As a knight, I would probably have a lot of trouble taking this creature down. With almost every attack, it applies a unique curse effect. Kind of like poison, it applies damage over time, except it's death damage, and rather than weakening over time, it only hits harder, up to 500 damage a tick, should you let it unhealed for too long. Needless to say, knights can get decimated by this effect. They have no means of healing it. I, however, am no knight. I am a paladin, and curing a curse is no problem to me. As long as I remember to cast the spell every couple turns, this part of Ghastly Dragon's damage doesn't exist. The dragon has no other notable skills. Basically, I can just kill it. My first surprise was when I realized that it was healing itself. TBWiki doesn't mention it at all, but the dragon can heal itself for about 300 HP pretty frequently. That made the fight so much harder. After about half an hour, I was almost out of supplies. I planned on escaping with the temple teleport scroll. However, for whatever reason, these scrolls do not work in Chyllfroest. If I wanted to leave, I had to once again fight my way through and risk death at the hands of the many frost dragons. Thanks to my charm, I was able to escape floor number 2 quickly, but on floor number 1 I got surrounded. Even though the situation was dire, I could not have gotten more lucky. I was next to a body of water, which meant there were only 5 dragons around me, and I was only facing the hatchlings vertically. Full-grown frost dragons were on the diagonal, which meant most of their attacks would not reach me. Despite that, I barely made it out alive. I was able to damage one of the hatchlings enough so that it would start running away. I then missed the correct path and almost got stuck again. Thankfully, finally I was able to get away. I'm not going to lie, this experience has left me scarred. Despite many hours of preparation, the only reason why I didn't die was a fluke. Of course, I could use some more energy walls, but still, I was simply scared to go back there again. I was able to get over my fear eventually, and I killed 30 more dragons on stream. Sadly, every dragon kill cost me unholy amounts of supplies. I also accidentally re-rolled my Frost Dragon Prey bonus, and getting it again has cost me most of my cash. And so, here are all the 40 kills that I had in me. As you can see, I didn't get a single item that I set out to obtain. I probably could have tried harder, but I was mentally spent and my job finally caught up to me. So in the end, this small orange bar is all I have to show for my ghastly dragon hunt. The island of Chyllfroest is again separated from Svargrounded, and it won't open up until next year. And so the ghastly dragons will have to wait. But when I come back, I am going to be stronger and even better prepared. So for now, I am just proud of my efforts. In a matter of 2 weeks, I was able to change something I perceived as impossible into a simply very hard task, which is probably quite commendable. I want to give a very special thanks to my community. It was thanks to our collective efforts that we were able to figure out a way to defeat the ghastly dragon in the end, even though I did most of the heavy lifting. But for now, thank you very much for watching, feel very welcome to leave me a comment, and consider joining my Discord if you wish to meet some other Ironman. And finally, thank you very much to everybody who is subscribed to my channel. Together we have reached the magical threshold of 500 and I am very grateful. As always, thank you very much for watching and I will see you next time.